Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Comm Report wherever you get your podcast. You're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media. That's AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have daily training camp updates along with my ESPN colleagues. Are going to do it for every team. So it's one-stop shopping to find out what's going on, not just with the Commanders, but around the NFL. And there you go. So also, if you want to become a club member, go to the Empire Media YouTube page, see the word join, click on that, find your club level membership that you prefer, and go from there. And for you gold members, we'll be doing a private Zoom. Let's do one Friday. So we're going to set that up for Friday, probably around 6 o'clock. And join me there, and we'll talk about the first several days of the Commanders training camp. Bring your questions. Again, private Zoom for the gold members. So anyway, there you go. So let's get into day one of training camp. This is my 31st camp, folks. So, you know, I've seen quite a bit, and there is a different level of energy attached to this one. And I don't, you know, there's a change that's come that brings a natural different vibe and energy. And you guys have heard a lot about that. And I just think they feel, you know, for people who are new, they want to come here and prove themselves. For the people who are holdovers, they want to finally do something. And they like having guys like Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, guys like that who provide leadership and their own sense of professionalism and standards. In addition to Dan Quinn, the coaching staff, and I've talked a lot about this, is the energy brought by the coaching staff, because a lot of them are former players. They bring a lot of energy. I'll get into that in a minute. But let's start with the big news for today is that Johnny Newton, defensive lineman, was activated off the non-football injury list. Big news. Now, the Commanders yesterday said they felt like it would be sooner rather than later. But even Dan Quinn said today he was not expecting it to be this fast. So that's really good news. And I'll tell you why, because the more time you miss, he missed all the spring coming off that foot surgery that he had in May to repair another partial Jones fracture in his left foot. He had one in his right foot in June. And you miss all those reps. That's big. If you start missing the training camp reps, even for a couple weeks, that really puts you back. But now he'll be back and he'll be able to get those. Now, he was going through individual work. So I saw him a lot there. In fact, I'm going to roll some video here of John Allen talking to Johnny Newton after some of those reps. You see the reps, you see the coaches giving him some pointers, but this is what's going to help Newton progress. He is in those drills. I think it's a big deal that a guy like Allen is sitting there talking to him. It's what they should do. It's not always what happens. And John Allen later told us that he remembers Ziggy Hood doing this for him back in the day when he was rookie. And people remember Ziggy Hood. He was an okay player, but a fantastic leader. And so when you do that, when you get to a certain point, you can help him with those pointers. And that's what was going on. And then the video I showed you, the second rep for Newton, which is what you saw, was the better one. And the coaches are right there with him. You saw that time and again, them doing that. And it's funny because watching and I'm going to put up some on the shorts videos, watching Daryl Tapp as a defensive line coach. I'll be honest, like I was a defensive back. I'd play for this guy, or you'd want to. You say that, you get thrown back 50 yards. But I like the energy and what he does. And I also like the way he coaches. And there's listen, if you mess up, he's going to tell you. But if you get it right, he's going to really go for you, right? And I like that style. I don't like the only negative. I don't like the only praise, because nobody's just about praise either. But I think you go hard on the correction and you go hard on the praise. I think that's what Tapp does. I think it helps quite a bit. So anyways, that's what we saw there. But the Tapp in particular brings a lot of energy, and there's other guys that do too. But he's one that I enjoy watching because I think it translates to the rest of that defensive line group. And I do think that in talking to John Allen afterwards, again, he addressed the media. One of the things he talked about is just the attention to detail and some of the stuff they're doing, the techniques. Said it's a lot more like what the 49ers are doing. So I think they like that quite a bit, and it's better than what they were doing here in the past. And that dovetails into something I talked. By the way, I'm going to get into the practice in a minute and get into wrap up and a lot about Jaden Daniels and some others. But initially, just want to stay on this for another minute or two. But I was talking to Jeremy Reeves afterwards about kind of what John Allen was saying. And my thing is, I wondered is there more, like, we hear a lot about competition from Dan Quinn. What does that mean? How do you see it? And his, he went to, like, you see different drills that kind of emphasize that, but it's also about, he said that, and guys compete against each other. They're highly competitive athletes. But what he brought up was in meeting rooms, like, and how you better get it right on the field, because if you don't, you're going to hear about it in the meeting rooms. And he's talking about just your stance, your little details of your footwork. And I said, well, isn't that what every coach should be doing? And he said, well, yeah, but I said, is it more than last year? And he said, yes. Now I'm going to play that interview I had with Jeremy for you club members. It's about a 5-minute audio interview, and I'll play that. That'll be coming up sometime in the next day or so. But you can hear all that. But in a nutshell, with Jeremy, a lot of it was the details of the coaching is a lot. They're a lot better, and that's where I want to see what difference does it make for a guy like a Benjamin St. Juste, who was on a good path prior to last year. How does it help Emmanuel Forbes? So all that stuff, but those details matter, and guys like that stuff because when you start coaching the details, it makes them better. So that's something to be watched and how that pays off. The other thing is too, when you hear guys, I know I talked about this a little bit in the spring about how different the locker room is. And when you hear, it's funny when you talk to Dan Quinn or some of the players about like the relationship building, all that, they always talk about getting to know guys from a personal perspective first, and then the football side. And I think that kind of stuff can help build chemistry. And Tony Wiley, Andrew Wiley, not Tony Wiley was a former PR of Andrew Wiley was talking about this in spring and how, it was a few hours after practice one day and guys were still in the locker room. And I think it was McLaurin was saying the same, Terry McLaurin was saying the same thing today, that it's an hour later and guys are still in there because they like being in there. They like who they're with. How that can definitely make a difference. Now, it doesn't make you a Super Bowl contender. You need other parts, but it can help you maximize what you have that year. And also, as Dan Quinn said yesterday, it can help start to build the identity and foundation for this franchise moving forward. This is what you can expect. And I think, this is what you should aspire to. So that's a good sign for them. Will Jaden Daniels climb to the top of the NFC East? Will the Commanders zip past the competition? We'll have to wait until the season starts to see, but you can get a head start on the competition this summer at the Adventure Park at Sandy Spring. Named the #1 aerial adventure park in North America by USA Today, the country's largest ropes course and zipline park is now open 7 days a week. Located in the heart of Montgomery County, Maryland, the Adventure Park offers climbing, ziplining, axe throwing, food, and more. Experience adventure day or night with your family, or leave the kids at home for one of the exclusive Keep It Lit adult-only events. These summer date nights are perfect, featuring glow lights, music, fire pits, and endless adventure. With challenges anywhere from beginner to expert, there is something for all skill levels. Not looking to scramble through the trees? Keep your feet planted in the pocket and throw a perfect spiral at axe throwing. You can throw at traditional targets or play any number of interactive games. You can even upload your own image. Anytime you're thinking about reaching new heights, make sure you know before you go. The Adventure Park at Sandy Spring is the only ACCT accredited park in Maryland or Virginia. So there you have it, folks. The best climbing, ziplining, and axe throwing in the country, right here in the DMV. Reserve your adventure today at www.theadventurepark.com/kind. Getting to the practice field, Jamin Davis worked. I only saw him with the defensive ends, just like how it was in minicamp. I think he's got a ways to go to get. It's a hard transition. And just because you may have some speed, you may have some power, doesn't mean you can go in there and be a pass rusher like that. So I think he's still got a lot to learn. And there was definitely one time, it's not easy. So I want to see how he progresses. The one rush I was able to watch him on in 11-on-11, he was against, I think it's Akinblue. I think that's who he was going against. And too wide, gets pushed off his path, a tough rush, right? So that's one rush. But my point is, I just think there's going to be a lot for him to learn and process before he gets to the point where he can be a contributor at that position, I think. And, they know what he can do. I think they know what he can do at linebacker. But I think he's, be curious to see how he develops there. Long ways. There's a little bit of a ways to go for him. In fairness to him, it's so new and it's a difficult transition. The first defensive backs on the field when the 11-11 were Emmanuel Forbes, St. Just, Quan Martin, and then Jeremy Chin. Now, they do rotate those guys a lot, so you quickly saw other guys coming in. Percy Butler was the next safety in. Derek Force came in after that. It'd be interesting to see what happens with guys like Davis, Percy Butler, De'Ami Brown. All those guys have speed, and coaches are reluctant to get rid of speed if they feel it can help them, right? And, so each of those guys have it. Will that make a difference? We'll see. Cornelius Lucas, first guy opening up at left tackle. They're going to rotate those guys just like they did in the spring. He's big. He's got good length. The hard part is you still see him bend. He ends up bending too much. So if a guy gets around him, instead of using those feet and the length, he's kind of bending at the waist a little bit too much. I saw Andre Jones get around him one time, in part because he was bending a little bit too much at the waist, so he was able to get by him. If you can improve that a little bit and use that length, now you can be a more effective tackle for sure. Zach Ertz going to be a big help over the middle because that's what he does. You saw it in the spring. You saw it again today, catching the ball over the middle. First one, I think it was from Mariota, but that's certainly what he adds. So second offensive line, it was Coleman, Chris Paul, Michael Dieter, Julian Good-Jones, and Trent Scott. So be curious to see how that evolves because I don't know how firm that competition will be, but those were the second O-line guys today. Mariota takes the first team reps in 11-on-11. He was the first quarterback out there. Daniels comes in after. Daniels gets the first reps in the 7-on-7 portion. So my guess is they'll probably start rotating a little bit more like that. One day this guy gets the first reps here, the next guy that. And it's funny because Terry McLaurin was asked later, does it make it hard to get into a rhythm with the guy when they're rotating like that? He's like, listen, he's been here with 10, he's had 10 different starting quarterbacks. I think he can adjust for sure. And so I think the others will too. And I think as camp goes on, you'll get plenty of reps with both guys because of the way they're rotating them. You may not get in 11-11 all the time, but you're going to get in 7-on-7. So I think it's kind of a smart way to do it where each guy gets working with the top group in one of those drills or whatever. So I liked how Daniels was with his rhythm today. I'm going to focus a lot on him because let's be honest, man, the competition is between Jaden Daniels and Jaden Daniels. When he's ready, it's his job. That's what they drafted him for at number 2. It's as Dan Quinn said yesterday, it's not a secret here. But his first reps, he had a good quick read to the middle to Cole Turner. Just hits his plant step, balls out, good read. Next step pass, trying to hit Mitchell Tinsley. AJ Woods, a corner, playing on the inside hip, breaks up the pass. Nice coverage there. Probably got to get the ball a little bit more wider on that play. In the 7-on-7, I thought that Daniels threw with some really good rhythm. Now, I always keep in mind that when you're watching the media, you are results oriented. So you see throw, catch, completion. All right, good play. Coaches see the process involved in it, and that's what you need to know more of. And when you're just watching the sidelines, you don't always know. You're not getting the great view. You're not getting from high above. Some of the stuff we're getting from an angle that's not a great angle. You might have some vision blocked. But what I'm looking for a lot of too is the ball coming out in rhythm. And then this one, first one was out to Zach Ertz, rhythm. Next play, 3 steps, he's looking left, back to his right to De'Ami Brown, good rhythm. And, I think you're not seeing that hesitation a lot with him for the most part. And so I think that's a good thing to show for him. And the accuracy is there too. Mariota, 11 reps, a couple misses, had to throw some away out of the back of the end zone, better than an interception. But again, I go back process versus results. And that's what, when they go back and look at it, they see process. And the process is what leads to consistency for sure. One time saw a nice route by Jahan Dotson going against Sanders from the inside. This is all red zone work, by the way, folks. They were working a ton on red zone, which I like. And I think I told you that yesterday. A lot of red zone work. That's where you earn your money. It's where you score your points. But the NFL, it's all situational. Third downs, red zone. So starting off with red zone, I really like that. There was a lot of work on that in the spring, and the focus was certainly there again as well. So on this one, it was Dotson from the slot on the right side, pressing Sam still getting to the goal line, then running a little whip route, and good throw by Mariota, nice spot. Sam still, I think prevented him from getting in the end zone. Good play by him to do that, but a good route and a good throw, a good route by Dotson and a good throw by Mariota. Next play, little out to Ben Sinnott, dropped it, focus thing, turned his head too soon. Just keep your eyes on the ball. I think that kid's going to be pretty good. It's funny, I was on Bram Weinstein's show, his radio show yesterday on ESPN 630, and we talked about what Quinn said about some positions being stronger, that they view them as stronger internally than what people do externally. And I think I told you I'd heard that it was O-line tight end, but I don't know that for 100% because Bram and I talked, and there was like, hey, is it more corner? I don't know with the starting corners where they're at yet because got to see more. But I think the depth is better with Igbino Geni, and I think that's how to pronounce it, Noah, and then Mike Davis with St. Just and Forbes and Samerstill. I think they're in a better spot with the depth than they were before, but we've got to learn a lot more about the starting group. And I think one of the things that works for them is that they've had success. This group has had success in the past in Dallas with turning some guys, Deron Bland, from guys you didn't expect a lot from, into guys who made some big time plays. So can they do that here? Where you don't have Micah Parsons rushing the passer, but can you create that and create situations that are put them in better spots? We shall see. But I have questions about them, just like I have questions about the tackles going into camp, and we'll see if how they get answered. Also, like from Daniels, had a nice little 3-step drop hitch through left to Kaz Allen. Nice little touchdown. Next play, quick hitch to John Bates. And again, good rhythm. I think the best throw he made, though, best throw by far, you had empty set. You had Robinson was split out, but on the inside, the number 2 receiver on the right runs a good route against Frankie Louvu. Just runs a corner route into the end zone. Perfect throw. He turns, ball's dropped into his arms from Daniels. Perfect throw, good route, good catch by Robinson. I think they're seeing that Robinson can help them a little bit more than just as a running back. And I think it was another play or two later. There was a little bit of pressure. I think it was Fowler rushing into Daniel's face as he's fading back, hits Allen with a really good throw out to the left against Noah I. There you go. That's how we're going to do it. Anyways, and then we talked to Tim McLaurin and John Allen afterwards, and one of the things that McLaurin was talking about was that red zone work and how, he's like, he wants to, even in that area, you want to make the DBs feel your speed. And I think that's one thing Jahan did on the one route with Samerstill, but you need to really press that coverage, make them think you're going to get to the back of the end zone. And then he ran a hitch and he caught a ball. I think that was from Daniels as well. And so one of the, as he said, on those balls, the key thing is placement accuracy. And that's one of Daniel's strengths. And so I think, McLaurin is certainly, I think, rather excited about the chance to finally build a relationship with a quarterback, an on-field relationship where you can grow and develop your timing, your rhythm, and your chemistry. Because every year it's coming in like you get to a certain point with the guy, and the next year you're starting over. That's really, really difficult to do. The guys had gone over 1,000 yards despite all this, but this is the first chance I think that he's truly had where you feel like this guy could be your guy for the next however many years. And that's where you start to see that the chemistry built, the familiarity where you're seeing things the same way and maybe you're being able to adjust without knowing that the other guy's going to make the same adjustment because you've been together for a while. McLaurin's never had that. How much better can that make him? It'll certainly make him better. And if you have a guy who, listen, McLaurin has deep speed, he can get deep, and that's one of Daniel's strengths, so that's going to help him as well. So I'll be curious to see how the impact of all this is on McLaurin and how that progresses throughout the season. The other thing McLaurin talked about, one of the differences he felt like this year was there's a clear objective from the top down, from Josh Harris to Peters to Quinn, as he called it. It's one voice, one mission. And I'll be honest, man, hasn't been like that for more than 24 years. The last thing too is they're staying in it, and I don't know if I talked about this before, but they are staying. They didn't go away for camp, but they are staying in a hotel close to the facility over in Lansdowne. So that the player in the past, guys would sometimes be able to go home. Some of the veterans would go home, spend time with their kids. They're all having to sleep at the hotel now. So they may have a couple hours where they can go sneak out and go, not even sneak out, but go out and see their family, but they still got to go back to the hotel and stay there. And I think one of the things that they've been better at this spring, and the way the whole setup is building some more of that chemistry, those relationships that are important. Again, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to go from 4 wins to 10, but it does help you achieve that quicker over the course of time when you're able to do that. And I think that's one of the good things. And like McLaurin talked about, going golfing with Zach Ertz, Mariota, and doing things like that. He's in the locker room. His locker's next to Emmanuel Forbes, and I think he was next to another offensive lineman or one of the linemen. He's like, in the past, it was always position groups. And I've talked about that before, but just they've spread things out. So you're getting to know different guys in the team and developing more relationships, which is why, like, they have the ping pong tables back. They have the, cornhole back. Those things, like, that, it fosters some competition, but you also get different guys playing against each other, and they may not have talked a whole lot before that point. So anyways, I think all that's good. Next year, I wouldn't be shocked at all if next year they go away for camp. I don't think it'd be too far away, but I think, like, I think Quinn and Peters are very big on having time away to build those relationships. So anyways, that's my wrap up for day one. Join me for day two. It'll be Thursday. They're still in, there's no pads or anything like that. Won't get that for several days. But, we'll be back out here tomorrow. It's a quick practice. It's about an hour and 10 minutes. So join me for the wrap up after Thursday's practice. Talk to you next time.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.